Hey everyone, it's TV dinner time. Kick your shoes off, get comfy. Today we're talking about actually concluding our conversation on Presumed Innocent from 2024. This is season one of Presumed Innocent. I think Jason mentioned it in our previous episode that the show's already been renewed for season two. After finalizing this show, episode 7 and 8, I'm hoping it's a new topic or a new crime that they follow and we're
Yeah,
not
it
just
seems kind of weird, right?
continuing. Yeah, not continuing this one, but that's a year or so down the line, so we'll worry about that then. But I want to give everyone a spoiler warning that we're talking about the conclusion to the show, episode 7 and 8. So if you haven't seen it, if you want to be spoiled, go ahead and continue listening. But if you don't, you can come back once you finish those two episodes, or once you finish the whole show. But
Yeah.
we'll get into it.
My first question, it was immediately like when I was watching episode 8,
Mhm.
is episode 8 is called The Verdict and
Yes.
everything. So I wanted to propose this question to you. And I'll propose it to like everybody that watches this and stuff in the comments. Is you're a jury member for this trial. We're gifted that we're able to see the outside stuff, like their planning and all the like the work that they do into like bringing this like evidence up. But if
Mhm.
you're just sitting there as a normal citizen, as a jury member, what would be your verdict if you can like remove the other parts from your mind? I
That's
guess we
tough
would say like there would
because it
be
has to be
11
unanimous
others.
too, right?
I think on like big cases like this, like murder
Yeah,
trials and stuff, it has to be like all 12, I think.
unanimous. I would. Okay, if it didn't have to be unanimous, I think I would find him guilty just based on what was presented. Um, no, it's tough actually because they didn't find any. They didn't find a murder weapon. It was a very not open, but it wasn't a well done case.
Mhm.
Uh, so I guess I would find him not guilty because of how many holes were left open in the case.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. Be like
Yeah,
because like we're watching this show, and granted, we watch a lot of like anybody that watches true crime can sit there and be like, oh. Based off of what you showed me in this documentary, I believe
yeah,
this. Well, the documentary is going to go deeper into like what they know and stuff,
yeah.
and find these other possible like avenues, plot holes and stuff. But we see it with a lot of like cases where it's like the OJ trial, the I think the guy that Casey Anthony, not Casey
Mm-hmm.
Anthony, the Scott Peterson guy, he's kind of coming up in the news because his like verdict is kind of like being rethought of. But he killed his wife in the Bay Area and stuff, and then was sentenced to death. But I think sometimes like you're almost like have to be like putting on blinders with like the jury where like, they try to because they like
Yeah.
put them away and stuff and they're like, oh, you come out, and they like dictate the judge. We saw it in this like this final episode, like when that like thing comes up, the
Yeah,
the
when that poker.
the poker shows up, the judge and then the rest of the lawyers are like, all right, do we tell this to the
Yeah, do we
jury
bring
and
this
stuff? And
up?
it's like oh, like how does that sway? So yeah, I would find him not guilty also because it's like I
Yeah.
don't know, like there's not a lot of like evidence like
Mm-hmm.
that reasonable doubt to say like oh it's
Yeah.
definitely this guy. There's a lot of people I think you would argue.
That's the one thing I really liked about this show though. Like Suits kind of gave you a behind the scenes look at what it's like to be a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Uh Not like the nitty gritty of it, but just like, oh, this is what lawyers do. There's ways to sway a case.
Mm-hmm.
But this showed you like a more in depth behind the scenes look of what it takes and what is actually going on and like how they're able to sway, bringing in different people, putting different people onto the witness stand, the evidence they find, like how they present it and how they actually speak about the evidence. So that's one thing about the show that I really enjoyed was seeing that side of it.
Yeah, I enjoy that too. Where it's like I enjoy the fact that like there's a lot of jobs that are like this where it's like I think their job, the story that they tell has a
Hmm.
lot of ramifications and stuff on people's lives, because
Yeah.
you heard it quite a bit in this show where it's like we're telling a story
Hmm.
and we need to make them believe in our
This
story.
story.
So
That's the
that's
thing that's
swaying
crazy
it.
though. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing
right?
that's crazy is like in Rusty's case, Rusty was innocent and he kept pleading that like and he ends up being found not guilty, but he's pleading that he's not guilty. But there's no way for him to have some sort of photo or video footage showing like, hey, I was at home. Here's a video I took on my phone showing that I'm at home. It's really his story against their story, and it's a story,
Hmm.
not here are facts, hard facts showing that this person did this crime.
Yeah, and it's like you kind of see, sadly, why some people are wrongly convicted too,
Hmm.
where it's like there's someone that's better at telling a story.
Yeah,
Granted, there's sometimes
you
where
got a
it's
lot
like,
of
yeah,
Dr.
they have,
Seuss.
yeah, Dr. Seuss, yeah, like we know that there's people out there like that can create a narrative and stuff and can
Hmm.
spin things, and then you add evidence on there, then it's like you have like one piece of evidence, like where like you can say in Rusty's case, like, oh, his DNA's there, like okay,
Yeah,
well, like the dude like
but there's no
is
blood
sleeping
or
with
any
this
of that.
lady and everything, like the DNA is gonna be there.
Yeah, she's
So,
having his child. Like
yeah,
she
right.
definitely has DNA somewhere in this. Like, come on.
It was crazy, but it's like you see how like real life situations can like emulate this, where it's like, hey,
Hmm.
no, I'm actually guilty or like not guilty and stuff, but
Yeah,
like everything
believe
points
me,
to me. Like it
please.
sucks because
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, like I have no other way to like tell you. Like I'm like, what am I gonna do as normal people? Should we take photos of ourselves like every time that
every
we're like at
yeah.
home? Like, hey, I'm hanging out with my girlfriend.
Just put a camera up, like just looking at you every
Yeah.
second of every day when you're
That's
home.
why I guess there's a lot of live streamers. It's like just
You
to show
literally,
proof that I'm somewhere.
I was not there. Check my live stream. I was on it for 24 hours.
now now the we kind of like brushed over the fire poker, but that was the murder weapon. So
Hmm.
the whole case was possibly contingent on, hey, there's this murder weapon.
That we
Where
cannot
is
find.
it? Yeah, we know she was like killed by this like blunt object, or like a fire
Hmm.
poker is not very blunt, but killed by an object and stuff. So when it popped up on
On
Tommy's
Tommy.
kitchen counter and stuff, what'd you think? What was like your instant like what?
Honestly, I was hoping Tommy was the murderer. I was hoping Tommy just like knew how to spin a story so that he wasn't found guilty, but he was the murderer the entire time. But then once that showed up, I was like, damn, my theory's thrown out the window. Um, I thought he was gonna press it more. I thought he was gonna be like, "Oh no, we need to introduce this. Like this was found in my house. The murderer did it." And then find a way to spin it and be like, yes, Rusty came into my house. I don't have any evidence of it, but Rusty was the one that came in my house and left this poker.
He almost turns into Rusty, saying like, "Hey,
Yeah,
someone else did this."
someone else did this. Like it wasn't me. Um, so it was a surprise. I wasn't. I think that's my gripe with this. Like I enjoyed the show. I just didn't enjoy the ending. I
Yeah,
think I think we all hoped that Rusty was found innocent, which he was, or not guilty, which he was. Um, but just the way that that played out, it's like, okay, why did Ray have to have a heart attack? Just to throw a monkey wrench into the story? Cool. But then Ray ends up right back into the courtroom helping Rusty. And then they try to sway Rusty to not give the closing statements. Obviously, Rusty's not going to listen, still does it.
yeah,
Uh, and then the twist with the wife at the end was just like, I like the twist. I like that everything started to point towards the wife,
and
and then
then
it was quickly shifted to like, no, 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 I was the one that did it, and then it just everything just halts. Like, okay, cool, you did it. We're never talking about this again. But this little girl has all this grief in her now. Like she
well,
put her
once you kind of
father
get to
through
the
all
ending
this.
of it, it's like, oh, people forget. They can kind of like,
But do you forget? Like you're a kid though. Like to put yourself in a teenager's mind, because we kind of touched on like what the kids were already going through, like
yeah,
with their father
right,
being in this being involved in this case. So to now find out like, oh, you're the reason that this is all happening because you decided to confront this person instead of speaking to your parents about what you had seen. Um, so yeah, I don't think you can get over that type of guilt and grief.
I don't know. I think what also is at play, like granted, like you're saying that like, yeah, a kid would have difficulty kind of getting over the
Hmm.
actions. But I think sadly in American kind of times now, it's primarily a lot of American stories.
Hmm.
But I think what it's also showing is that showing that like a young person is capable of doing some heinous
Heinous.
crime.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like changing the story of that a little bit, where it's like we want children. And I think it's also like everyone's upbringing, where like children's like upbringings nowadays are kind of like either like sometimes a little crazy and stuff.
Hmm.
So it's like I think that is part of the story from this, where it's like it's possible that a child, because like we also questioned the weird kid who
Yeah.
is there videotaping everyone that's going in and out of his estranged mom's house, and there was a possibility that we were thinking that he also killed her. And
Hmm.
everyone when Rusty was like cross-examining him, which was like an intense like, man, that sucks,
Yeah.
where it's like you have a kid that's up there and having to like ask questions or answer questions to the person that possibly killed his mom,
Yes.
which is crazy. But I think that's like what the story is from this, or like the moral of it is that there's little ones out there that can do crimes like this,
But I think,
and it's hard to like not like it's like that horns and halos right aspect of things. It's like
yeah,
sometimes we kind of like paint a picture in our head that like, oh, that can't happen, but then it's possible.
I think being like touching back on that, being an American, like you are jaded because of all of these things that occur, like
Yeah,
damn near on a weekly, daily to weekly basis now.
yeah.
These crimes that are committed by children, and I don't know if it's the television or whatever, but I think with this twist and then seeing that it was the daughter that caused all this, I was kind of like, okay, this should have been handled differently. Like as a kid, you don't really know. You kind of just your emotions get to you, and something happens, like what occurred. So to find out that the daughter was the one that did it, and then thinking about all of the kids that have done these heinous things in the U.S. over this last couple of years, and even before that, it didn't phase me.
Yeah, that kind of sucks because it's like,
Yeah.
but then also you're questioning the parents. It's like, all right, like yeah, like a child, I think, or anybody, I think that's like yeah, on a normal kind of like trajectory and stuff would have a lot of behaviors I think that would could be seen that like, hey, like I just did something that was like pretty
Hmm.
crazy and I'm like acting a little different. So it's like, and also you have like two parents that are having like this like disagreement in their like marital stance, and so things can get blinded, and then you don't notice that your daughter is somewhere like burying some like murder weapon and like
Evidence,
cleaning down their like car and everything. I think I would know personally. I would know if my car was clean from the inside. It's like,
right?
so if I'm in it all the time and everything, I'd be like, hey, it smells kind of
This is
like
a little
clean in
different.
here. So
Hmm. Why is the seat a little different? What's
yeah,
going on?
right.
My mirrors are wrong. What's going on?
What do you think about like we kind of touched on it too, where it's like, but Rusty was kind of setting up the play because he knew that someone else did this
Yeah,
to Carolyn or Caroline or Carolyn,
Carolyn.
Carol, and so he knew someone else did this
Hmm.
because he confirmed at the end that he showed up and she was dead already, and so he
Yeah.
like kind of painted this picture again, telling that story, already creating that story of like what happened.
How
But
do you
like,
get
what would
no
you?
blood on him?
I know, right? Like, I also the daughter too. Like, there was like
Yeah.
nothing, like none of her
Yeah.
DNA. Like, she went to two places to
Yes.
kill this lady and then drop off the
The
murder
murder
weapon
weapon.
at Tommy's place. and left nothing. Like,
Nothing. That girl's a pro. They need to get her out of high school and be like, hey, we need you.
yeah, right.
CIA,
Like,
whatever, special intelligence, we need you.
right. But it's like, what do you think about like him already trying to set up like, all right, like I need to like figure out exactly who in my family did it. He kind of
Yeah,
pointed it and tried to pin it on his
his
wife.
wife. Yeah, it just felt like a very lawyer thing to do.
Right.
Like,
Or a
hey,
very
I'm gonna
rusty thing to
somehow,
do.
yeah, like I'm gonna somehow be involved in this because of
Yeah.
my relationship with this woman. I know I didn't kill her, but no one was here to see that. So yeah, it felt like a very lawyer thing to do. Like, okay, let me try to flip this and make it look like someone else had done this. But he's twisted for like actually tying her up though.
I know, right? That's crazy. That's
To be like, okay, this woman
like,
is dead. I could call 911 and then explain what had occurred and why I was at the home multiple times throughout the night. But nah, I'm just gonna tie her up. Like
yeah.
this, this is a woman you were intimately, like you
And
were in love with and like intimate with, and she's dead with your child in her, and you're tying her up. Like that's crazy. And then to go home after that,
I
be
know,
like,
right?
all
And
right,
be
cool, I'm
like,
gonna go to
hey, like,
bed. I'm gonna go to
I
bed.
gotta go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, that's tomorrow's Rusty. That's tomorrow Rusty's problem. Yeah.
What one of my gripes in part in to this story too, I think one of my biggest gripes is that when he started taking Ritalin, uh,
Oh yeah.
so and like he was having so much like like animosity from his wife and his like children, like, oh, he's taking it again and then stuff. Like, granted, like for me, I'm like, if it's like prescribed to him
Mm-hmm.
and he has a reason to take it and everything, that's typically something that you give to like ADHD or ADD to kind of calm those symptoms, to focus. And he said that he's like, I
Yeah.
need to focus because
Yeah.
everyone else is like, even my own family's asking me a bunch of questions after I just answer. I would get pissed off at that too. I tell Patty sometimes it's like I can't be answering a lot of questions right now because I need to be able to process
Yeah.
things, and so I would be like, I need something, and if it's like prescribed to him, if he's not stealing it from his like children and stuff, like who cares? But I don't know. I think anytime like someone takes a drug and like, oh, like,
They always point it out in shows.
yeah,
Like,
right.
oh, he took a sugar pill.
I instantly
Oh
thought he was taking
no.
Adderall, which is like another like
Yeah.
a
That would
lot
have
of
amped
college
him up. He was
students.
already crazy.
I know. I think he probably would have had like a lot of like negative effects where he's
Oh,
like
for
there, like,
sure.
like
Yeah, Rusty was already insane. For him to add Adderall on top of that, yeah, no.
yeah, right. So I was like, I was very confused. I was turned to Patty. I was like, why are they mad? Like he's trying to win this case and he's doing it kind of
He's
like
trying to come home.
legally.
Yeah. He's trying to make sure he comes home to this crazy house. Like
I
let
know,
him
to
take all
get
the pills he wants.
more questions answered.
Yes.
And then the moment that like I was like, man, that sucks. Like this guy can't win. Like he wins this like amazing case
Mm-hmm.
basically by himself.
Yeah.
He's not convicted of murder, and then he comes home and his wife's already packed and everything for a vacation and stuff.
And then he finds out his daughter was the one that murdered the love of
Yeah,
his
and
life. It's like,
then that's not the worst thing that he learns.
give me more Ritalin. Just give me the pills. Like, I'm out of here. Like,
Yeah, I'm like, let me go on my treadmill and then forget
yeah.
about everybody.
Or I would have went on vacation too. Like, cool, the kids can figure it out. Like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, right. Shit.
Because how do you,
But
like, so that was a question that came up to me is, how do you go back to work after this?
what do you do? Like,
Like,
yeah,
you don't go back to because he's not in the DA's office anymore.
I was
Like,
thinking that too, where it's like, all
how do you go
right,
back
like
to
if they
work?
let go of him, like, could that be like a wrongful like
But would you
termination
want to go
thing?
back though? Like,
Man, I
you
just feel
show
like
up and it's
Rusty
like,
would be like a douchebag
hey,
and like, yeah,
Tommy.
everyone has to see my face now.
Yeah. That was a great case you tried. Too bad you didn't win, Tommy. Like, that would
I'm
have been
sitting here,
weird.
man.
Yeah. That was my like question at the end was like, okay, how do you go back to work? Because now you were in a high profile case, your face was everywhere. You can't just show back up to the job you were at previously if you're even allowed back in. You have to find something new. And then you're going in to do interviews or whatever, and they're like, oh, you're the guy from that case. Like, oh, you did great, but we can't have somebody like you work in this law firm.
I don't,
Like,
or like, have you ever been a convicted felon? Like, No,
Hmm,
but
define convicted.
yeah. Well, it's like I don't know. I feel like he can be like the next Johnny Cochran. Like Johnny Cochran was not like a criminal like him,
Yeah,
but like he could be like the best defense lawyer. Was
to
everyone
say
would
the
be like,
wildest shit.
"Dude, you just won your own case." I feel like that's
Yeah,
like the only thing you should do. Like open your own practice or do what Ray did. Just retire and just
yeah,
start planning stuff and like
yes.
being with your family and stuff. And like,
Spraying your
I don't
wife with
know.
the water hose, like just have
Yeah,
fun.
right.
Well, not his wife anymore. He spray his kids because his wife is definitely gone. She's going with Cliff.
I don't know. All right, so I want to talk about like what do you think? I guess the last question we can ask ourselves, like, what do you
Mm-hmm,
think if there is a second season? I
mm-hmm,
saw an inkling of a second season, but if they don't create a new story, like a whole new crime, like how would you think they would do a second season based off of what how they ended this?
I think there would be some sort of evidence that's found. Oh, but this is the whole double jeopardy thing, though. So
Well, they
I
can't
don't know
bring
how that would
him
work out.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But I think they would somehow like implicate the daughter. I think like they're gonna look through the photos, or because everybody has Ring cameras on their houses, and Carolyn lived in a nice neighborhood, so I can see something to do with the daughter coming into play, and then Rusty having to then bring Ray back out of retirement and help the daughter out in some way.
Yeah, I'm like that's sort of what I'm thinking too, or like or Rusty has to like defend his own daughter,
Yeah,
basically. And so like that becomes like the whole story is that like, oh now the daughter this like story doesn't end. It's like now the
yeah.
daughter is implicated in this. And I'm surprised the kid that was like videotaping Carolyn's daughter son
Hmm.
didn't point out like, hey, like that
I've seen
lady
you.
looks familiar.
Yeah, like
Like,
I've seen you before. Wait a minute. But I wouldn't want to see that as season two. Like I
yeah,
really hope.
I don't like that either. Where it's like, all
Yeah, I
right,
hope they
like
close this. Like, hey, we gave you this. It, people enjoyed it. Let's give you something new, season two.
yeah, I agree with you. Where it's like, unless you like kind of try to like, because then it goes out of like the possibility of it being grounded. Where it's
Hmm.
like unless you like turn her into a serial killer and then she's like she enjoys like killing people and I don't know.
Yeah,
And then
we can
Rusty
watch
has to
Dexter
like
for that.
yeah, like there's other things you can watch for that and everything.
Yeah,
So it's like I think a whole new story is necessary because
yeah.
it's like I don't know. Like I feel like you'd be fabricating too many like either loose ends or trying to create stories out of the loose ends that you left
Hmm.
in the first season to be like, oh, like now the daughter's on trial. It's like, all right, well, you just did the same exact thing before.
Yeah,
Like it'd be nice, like we can do the same exact thing, but have someone else
that's how
have,
you end up with the MCU. Just Easter eggs
yeah,
and holes
right,
everywhere. Like we don't want that. We already have that
yeah,
with our superheroes.
yeah. You start having like where like everything gets clouded, and you're like, and
Yeah.
people that actually pay attention to everything would be like, hey, like that doesn't work out in this scenario.
Yes. There's gonna be a lot of Reddit posts.
Okay, so having watched all 8 episodes from beginning
Hmm.
to end, do you still recommend this show? And then who do you recommend it to mostly?
I still recommend it because I think others would find enjoyment in the way the show ended. I was just angry at the twist and having to like had watched all these episodes and that's the twist. But I think most people would find enjoyment in it. I think we talked about it previously, but if you're into true crime, into thrillers, this is definitely the show for you.
Yeah, I agree with you. Where it's like I still recommend it. Patty and I enjoyed it from beginning to end. Like Patty was like on the edge of her seat watching the last 2 episodes and stuff. So I think there is a lot of people that will enjoy this. For me, I'm like thinking like if anybody like misses Mindhunter from
Oh
Netflix,
yeah.
I think they would love this because I think that's like sort of the you get true crime, but you kind of get like a nice cinematic
Hmm.
view of this and everything. Like there's a lot of good kind of like shots in this film in this like it almost looks like a film sometimes,
Yeah.
but in this show So I get like a lot of like Mindhunter, and if you're missing that show because it doesn't seem like it's coming back from on Netflix, if you're missing that show, I think this show is actually a very good kind of alternative. Yeah, so I do recommend it. I think we both enjoyed it. It's just
Hmm.
like if you want to nitpick or show that like, hey, I think you could have done the ending. I still like. It's funny. Like I see the ending of like The Sopranos come up on my like Reddit feed, and people still
Hmm.
complain about that. I'm like,
Isn't that like 20 years ago?
everyone's gonna hate endings of like TV shows because like you invest so much time
Yeah.
in these things, and then it's like, oh, that's it. Because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know how to like end stories.
Yeah. I think that's one of the big issues.
Yeah, because they still want to be able to make a lot of money off of these things afterwards.
Hmm.
So they try to like end stories with a bunch of plot holes and like cliffhangers.
Like so they can pick it back up for another
Yeah,
season or
right.
multiple seasons after.
So yeah, let us know in the comments below if you've seen Presumed Innocent on Apple Plus. If you've seen all the episodes, if you've seen the end, let us know. Like I asked Kai, like if you were sitting there in the jury seat as one of the jurors, what would be your argument as to like whether or not he's guilty or not guilty? Let us know in the comments below what you thought about it, and then please like and subscribe to Saturday Night Popcorn for more TV dinners like these.